things about a stale lead sequence is you want to keep people engaged, but you also want to get them out if they don't have that problem anymore, because you don't want to pay for them to be on your list. In this video, I'm going to talk about 4 email sequences that every single business should have. Most companies that we start working with at Morsi will have 1, maybe 2 of these. I've never seen a company with all 4. So when we come in, we can always add immediate value and an immediate lift in their list conversion just by making sure that these 4 sequences are intact. So if you're listening to this right now, make sure to take notes and start to implement these sequences in your CRM, in your business right away. 1, the opt-in nurture sequence. Now, most people do have this sequence, although a lot of times they're doing it wrong. This sequence really is about what people need from you in order to take that next step. If someone has opted in and they are not in a post-purchase sequence, or they're not in, some type of customer sequence or some type of next step sequence, like a book to call sequence, if they're in this opt-in sequence, what it basically means is that, hey, I've shown interest, but you haven't gotten me over the line yet, business. You need to do a little bit more work. So what we're going to do in this opt-in sequence is really a number of things, but it's a warming sequence. So, we can use this opportunity to essentially talk a little bit more about, their problem, relate to them a little bit more, say, hey, we're in this with you. We get you. We understand you. We can talk a little bit more about the other solutions out there and why they just don't compare to your solution. We can talk a little bit more about other people's experiences with your solution. Again, we can provide social proof. This is a great opportunity to provide value, but I will say, be warned, a lot of opt-in sequences that I see are extending the sales cycle beyond what it needs to be because they're a little bit too soft. When I started working with this diabetes education company, I was genuinely surprised at how giving they were. And I think it was really a good thing, and it spoke to who they were. I will say that they had customers and prospects camping out on their email list for literally years before they bought something, and some would never buy something, and they were just paying for that space. So my theory has always been and will always be, if you want to help people, to truly help people, they do need to buy your product or service. You can't help them from the sidelines. It's in their best interest for you to get slightly more aggressive on your email and text follow-up, and to get them into that next phase where you can actually help them. Sequence number 2, that's going to be your pre-call sequence. Now, this sequence is incredibly important because what we need is not for booked calls or booked demos. What we actually need is for people to show up to them, right? We can book calls all day long, but when people don't show up for the appointments, it creates a double problem. 1, we took up the spot for somebody else. 2, we've essentially wasted our ad spend on somebody that hasn't shown up to the call, so we have no opportunity to sell to them. So it's really important that we focus a lot, not just on getting them on the call, but on making sure that they show up. And this is often a very weak point in businesses. So I'm going to just talk to you about what makes a great pre-call sequence, and so that you can kind of beef this up for your business. Now, the purpose is to remind them to show up, of course. So make sure in that pre-call sequence, you're reminding them what they registered for. Like, a lot of times people will say, your call is coming up. Which call? I mean, I personally, on my calendar right now, I have about 20 more calls for this week, and it's Thursday. So my call is coming up really isn't enough. It's your call about X, Y, and Z solution is tomorrow. And in the context, I'm going to let them know, hey, this is why you're doing this. This is why this call is going to be valuable to you. I'm letting them know and reminding them and jogging their memory of why they went through that ad or however they got there. I'm jogging their memory to make sure that they remember why this is important to them. That pre-call sequence is also to get them excited, to get them pumped. So I like to provide, social proof and testimonials and tell them what's possible to get them actually excited for that call. The day of, we want to provide at least 3 reminders. Hey, your call's today. 2 hours before, 1 hour before, we say, hey, your call's coming up. I'm jumping in now, 10 minutes before, right? We want to provide those 3 day of reminders just so they don't forget, get caught up in the moment, and really just have every intention to be there, but just actually get caught up in the moment and forget. So make sure to provide 3 reminders day of. And last thing is basically to use that pre-call sequence to handle any objections so that you can minimize your objections on the call. Sometimes I'll send out an email being like, but make sure to include text, to do text and email as well, and give that 10-minute pre-call reminder of, hey, I'm jumping in right now. Number 3 is going to be your stale lead sequence. Of all the businesses I've worked with, I've never actually seen one that was, I mean, I've rarely seen them, but I've never seen one that was really any good. You can almost make it playful, like, hey, you've been here a while. You still struggling with this? Or hey, we still do this. By the way, I don't know if you still have this problem, but one of the things about a stale lead sequence is it's twofold. You want to keep people engaged, but you also want to get them out if they don't have that problem anymore, because you don't want to pay for them to be on your list, and they're going to impact your deliverability if they're on your list and they're just dead, right? So you can be a little bit playful, like, hey, still there? And I think even a B2B setting, that's okay to be a little bit playful. But what we can do is just, we want to reactivate, we want to re-excite, we want to provide trainings or info, and we definitely want to get them on a call. Like sometimes for a stale lead re-nurture, I'll say, hey, are you still struggling with X, Y, and Z problem? Let me know. Or, hey, are you still looking for X, Y, and Z solution? ? And it's nothing more than that. Once your leads kind of go cold, if they've had a call or a demo or something and they've kind of gone cold, you can buffer that out in your CRM to where it shows up at about the time they would maybe not be getting any other contacts and they've potentially gone cold. Okay, number 4 is going to be that onboarding sequence. Now, so many people forget that this is even a thing. This onboarding sequence is really helpful at making sure stuff doesn't fall through the cracks. So we're human beings, which means that we're not perfect, and we may forget to check in at the right time. So this is really your fail-safe to make sure that your customers have a great onboarding experience, which is their first experience with you as a company. So one thing we do in our onboarding experience is we provide a gift, which is really fun. There's a lot of gifting sites and services out there. You can also do a welcome message with a custom text or voice drop. That's really easy to do. And of course, like a check-in, an automated check-in, just in case, just to hedge any angst if something isn't going correctly. A check-in message can catch some of that stuff early. So make sure to have that onboarding sequence. I hope that helps. I'll see you guys on the next video.